I didn't know my son-in-law was telling people I was dangerous until the school counselor called me. It was a Wednesday morning, just after I'd finished folding the last of the laundry. The sun was warm through the kitchen window, the kettle had just begun to whistle, and for a moment, my 68-year-old world felt peaceful. Small, but mine. Then the phone rang. "Mrs. Fenton?" a cautious voice said. "This is Rachel, the counselor at Willow Creek Elementary. I'm calling about your grandchildren." My stomach tightened. Not from fear, from instinct. When you're a mother, even when you're old and your knees ache when the weather changes, you can tell when the air shifts. "What's wrong?" I asked, gripping the counter. There was a pause, a long one, too long. It's not exactly about the children," she said carefully. "It's about custody instructions we received from their father." Custody instructions. Their father. My son-in-law. Evan. A chill crawled down my spine. "What kind of instructions?" I asked. Another silence. "Mrs. Fenton, he filed a notice stating that you are not to be allowed near the children under any circumstances." My heart slammed against my ribs. "What?" I whispered. "He listed you as a safety risk." Safety risk. At first I thought I misheard her. I thought maybe she'd confused me with someone else. I thought maybe there was another Fenton. Grandmother in the system? Someone violent? Someone unstable? Someone who actually belonged on a warning list? But she said it again. "According to the documents the father submitted, you are considered dangerous. We were instructed to call authorities if you attempted to pick them up or make contact." My breath caught. "I've never harmed anyone," I said quietly. "I've never so much as raised my voice at those children." "I know, Mrs. Fenton," she said, her voice softer now. "I've met your grandchildren. They adore you. This was surprising, to say the least." Surprising. That word felt too soft, too polite, too far from the truth. This wasn't surprising. It was surgical, calculated, planned. It was Evan. He had always been careful, polite when others watched, measured in his tone, clean-shaven, well-dressed, always the man with an answer before anyone finished the question. He never shouted, never slammed a door. No, he hurt with precision, quietly, strategically. And now he had used his quiet cruelty to take my grandchildren from me. I sank into the kitchen chair. "Why would he do this?" I asked. "Why would he tell you something like that about me?" She hesitated. "Mrs. Fenton, we can't legally interfere, but I will say this. Children don't speak about their grandparents the way your grandchildren speak about you if there's fear in the home." I swallowed hard. Fear? No, there was no fear when they were with me, only warmth, only stories, laughter, bedtime rituals, toy trains, messy kitchens, flour on noses, and little hands reaching for mine. But perhaps there was fear somewhere else. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for telling me." "I shouldn't have," she whispered back, but something felt wrong. When we hung up, I sat there in silence for a long time, watching the kettle cool, my hands trembling as they rested on the table. Then something inside me shifted. A small click, a lock turning, a line being drawn. If Evan wanted to paint me as a danger, I needed to know why. I called my daughter first. No answer. I called again. No answer. The third time, it went straight to voicemail, as if she had declined the call. I sat there, listening to her recorded voice telling me to leave a message, knowing full well she wouldn't listen to it, not if Evan told her not to, not if he had already filled her head with whatever lie he had crafted. I didn't leave a message. I knew better.
That's how Evan trapped people. He twisted words, bent them, turned them into weapons. I wasn't giving him ammunition. By noon, I couldn't stay in the house. My thoughts were rattling too loudly inside my skull, bouncing between hurt and disbelief and a growing, simmering anger I hadn't felt in years. So I walked outside. The wind was crisp. Autumn was settling in, brushing gold along the tops of the trees. My yard was quiet, except for the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of a tractor from the neighbor's field. My grandchildren would have been here this afternoon. They usually came every Wednesday after school. We'd bake or do homework at the oak table or sit on the porch and watch the birds. It was our routine, our little sanctuary. But today, they wouldn't come because their father had declared me a threat. The thought made my hands curl into fists. A threat. To them, it was absurd. No, evil. Then, over the sound of the leaves, I heard a familiar little voice. "Grandma?" My head snapped toward the driveway. It was Emma, my youngest grandchild, 7 years old, hair in 2 braids, backpack bouncing, freckles rushing toward me. My heart cracked open. But then I saw who stood behind her. Evan. His hand landed on Emma's shoulder before she could reach me. "Stop," he said sharply. She froze. My throat tightened. I stepped forward. "Emma, sweetheart," but Evan moved between us, blocking her with his entire body. "Don't," he said. Not loud, not emotional, just cold. Cold enough to freeze the space between us. "What is this? What are you doing?" He gave me a tight, almost pitying smile. "As I told the school, you are not permitted near the children." My stomach twisted. "You told the school I was dangerous." He told them the truth, he corrected, adjusting his jacket cuff. "You've shown signs of instability." Instability. I stared at him. Because I told Emma she shouldn't climb the shed roof, because I told Noah he couldn't watch horror movies at 6 years old, that's your definition of instability? He shrugged. "I'm protecting them." "From me?" I asked. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. Then Emma spoke again, voice small, cracking around the edges. "Daddy, why can't I see Grandma?" Evan tightened his jaw. "Get in the car." "But now." She flinched. Not physically, but emotionally. The kind of flinch you only see when a child is used to swallowing disappointment. My chest ached. "Evan," I said quietly, "whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to build this into, it won't hold. They know me. They know I would never." He cut me off. "They will believe what I tell them." The air stilled. Something in his eyes flickered, almost satisfaction. Kids forget. They adapt. It was a threat dressed as a fact. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't about me. This was about control. He couldn't control me, but he could control them, their time, their access, their emotions, their memories. He could erase me if he tried hard enough. "Get in the car, Emma," he repeated. But Emma didn't move. Her eyes were locked on mine, wide and wet. "I want to stay with Grandma," she whispered. It was barely audible, but it carried through the yard like a prayer. Evan stiffened. Now. But he grabbed her arm, not violently, not enough to bruise, but enough to make her gasp. "Daddy," she said. Something inside me snapped. Let go of her. He turned slowly, eyebrows lifted. "Are you threatening me?" "No. I'm warning you. Don't touch her like that." His lips curled into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. "That's exactly the kind of behavior I told them about." Before I could respond, he opened the back door and guided Emma inside. She pressed her palms to the window as he shut it. Her eyes begged, pleaded. Her mouth formed one word, "Grandma." Then they were gone. Dust rose behind the tires as the car disappeared down the old rural road, leaving me in the silence of my own front yard. I stood there long after the sound faded, long after the wind shifted, long after the sun dipped behind the trees. I stood there until my shadow stretched across the grass. Dangerous, unstable, a threat. Words Evan had crafted with precision, placed like traps, filed like weapons. And he wasn't done. I knew that now. He had a plan. And as much as it broke me, I could feel something else rising in my chest. Something sharp. Something steady. Resolve. Because if Evan wanted to build a lie around me, he had no idea how deeply the truth could cut.
For 2 days after Evan dragged Emma away, I didn't hear a word from my daughter. Not a call, not a message, not even an accidental pocket dial. Silence. Silence can be loud. It can shake an old house more than thunder. It can seep into the walls like cold moisture and make everything feel damp and hostile. But silence between a mother and her child? That's not noise. That's a wound. On the third morning, I woke up before sunrise. The kind of early morning where the air feels blue and the ground is still holding the night's chill. I boiled water for tea, fed the cat, and sat at the kitchen table waiting for my phone to ring. It never did. Instead, at 9:07 a.m., a white SUV pulled into my driveway. Not Evan's, not my daughter's. My stomach sank when I saw the blue county emblem on the door. Child Protective Services. A tall woman stepped out, holding a clipboard. She didn't knock right away. She stood there for a moment, looking at the windows, at the porch, at the garden beds on the left side of the house. She was assessing me before she even saw me. I wasn't new to assessments. When you're a mother of 3, one who died early, one who moved away, and one who married the wrong man, you spend decades being evaluated by society, teachers, doctors, neighbors. But being evaluated as a danger? That was new. She finally knocked. A firm, professional sound. Judgment wrapped in courtesy. I opened the door. "Mrs. Fenton?" she asked. "Yes." "I'm Miss Porter with Child Protective Services. May I come in?" My jaw clenched before I answered. "Do I have a choice?" I asked.
She gave a polite, neutral smile. "You always have a choice, but I do need to speak with you." I stepped aside. She walked in, surveying everything the way people do when they've already formed a half opinion and are simply searching for evidence to validate it. My kitchen was clean, counters wiped, dishes washed, floor swept, a pie cooling on the stove. Nothing dangerous, but I found myself apologizing anyway. "Sorry if it's a little messy. I baked this morning." "It's fine," she said, taking the seat opposite me. "I'd like to discuss some reports we received." Reports. Plural. My heartbeat picked up. She flipped open her folder.
These reports are from your son-in-law, Mr. Evan Randall. I didn't speak. I let her continue. He stated that you exhibit unpredictable behavior, mood swings, fixation tendencies, and have made comments he considered threatening. I felt sick. He also noted that the children expressed fear of you. That was too much. I leaned forward, voice steady but sharp. My grandchildren are not afraid of me. They have never been afraid of me. She paused, studying me. Then she lowered her voice. Mrs. Fenton, I want to be honest with you. Children don't talk about their grandparents the way yours talk about you in their school counseling sessions if there is fear at home. My breath shook. So they told the school they loved me, I said quietly. They did, she confirmed. They used words like safe, happy, and home. Home. She didn't know what that one word meant to me, but I did. So why are you here? I asked. She straightened. Because we also have to investigate the other claims. What claims? She hesitated. Mr. Randall told us you yelled at the children last week and frightened them. That's a lie, I said immediately. Can you tell me what happened that day? I did. Every detail. From the spilled milk, to Emma laughing, to Noah picking up the mess without being asked. There was no yelling, no tears, no fear. Not from them, not from me. She listened, nodding occasionally. And did you have any heated conversations with Mr. Randall recently? I laughed softly, not from humor, but from disbelief. He told you about the driveway? She didn't respond. He grabbed Emma's arm, I said. I told him not to touch her like that. Her eyes flickered. She wrote something down. And did you raise your voice then? Yes, I admitted. I did, because he frightened her. She closed the folder slowly. The conversation hung in the air between us, heavy and complicated. After a moment, she sighed. Mrs. Fenton, I've been doing this job for 17 years, and I'll tell you what I tell every grandmother who sits at this table in tears, begging to see their grandchildren again. She leaned closer. Men don't usually do this unless they want something. I swallowed hard. What does he want? That, she said gently, is what we need to figure out. She stood. Until this is sorted, I'm required to follow procedure. I have to file a temporary visitation restriction. It felt like she punched me. You're saying I can't see them? Not until the investigation is complete. How long will that take? A few weeks. A few weeks. Weeks without seeing their faces. Weeks without Emma's braids against my chest when she hugged me. Weeks without Noah's shy grin when he showed me his drawings. It felt like losing them. Not permanently, but painfully. She placed a card on the table. I'll keep in touch. And Mrs. Fenton, don't do anything Evan can twist or use against you. He is watching. I watched her leave. When her car disappeared down the road, the house felt unfamiliar. Too quiet, too big, too empty. That afternoon, I went through every photo album I owned, not to comfort myself, to remind myself. Remind myself that I had raised children with steady hands and unconditional love. Remind myself that I was not the monster Evan painted me to be. Remind myself that I had worth, not for what I gave, but for who I was. At sunset, I went to the porch, sat on the old wooden bench James built before he died, and stared at the gravel driveway.
My daughter still hadn't called. My throat tightened. The truth was settling now, piece by piece. Evan didn't just want me gone. He needed me gone. But why? What was he afraid of? What did he stand to gain? As the sky darkened into night, a pair of headlights appeared down the road. My heart jumped. I stood. For a moment, I hoped it was my daughter. But when the car turned into the driveway, my hope fell. It wasn't her. It was Noah, my grandson, 12 years old, running, panicked, breathless. He sprinted toward the porch, clutching something in his hands. "Grandma!" he cried. My heart nearly stopped. "Noah, honey, what are you doing here? Where's your dad?" He didn't answer. He shoved a folded piece of paper into my hands. His eyes were wide, terrified. "Grandma, you need to read this before he finds out I took it." Before he finds out? Before who finds out? I opened the paper. One sentence at the top made the blood drain from my face. Petition for removal of guardian rights. My rights. To see them. To know them. To be in their lives. I looked up at Noah. He was trembling. "He wants to erase you," he whispered. "He said you're bad, dangerous. He said we're safer without you." My knees weakened. But then Noah said something that changed everything. "But we don't believe him anymore. Emma heard something. She heard Dad on the phone. Grandma, he's lying, and it's about money." Money. My breath caught, and Noah finished with a whisper. "Grandma, Dad told someone the sooner you're gone, the sooner he gets everything." The porch lights flickered. The truth landed, heavy and cold. Evan wasn't trying to protect the kids. He wasn't trying to protect my daughter. He was trying to take something big. And I had just discovered why he needed me out of the picture. When Noah handed me that petition, those cold, legal words aiming to cut me out of my own bloodline, it felt like something inside me cracked. Not shattered, cracked. A controlled break. A fracture that makes you aware of every inch of your bones, every breath, every memory you've ever lived. I stared at the document for a long moment, the porch light flickering over the edges of the paper. It looked wrong in my hands. Something that dangerous shouldn't be so thin, shouldn't feel so light. "Noah," I whispered, "where did you get this?" He looked back at the road, terrified, as if expecting his father's car to appear at any second. "In Dad's desk," he said. "He left it open. He was on the phone, whispering, but I heard him. I heard him say. He heard him say the word inheritance. Inheritance. The word made my blood run cold. "Noah," I said again, "what exactly did you hear?" He swallowed, eyes shining in the porch light. He said he was tired of waiting for Mom to decide. He said once you were out legally, the house and the accounts and the land would go straight through her, and he could handle the rest. I felt dizzy, not because of the money, because my daughter, my own daughter, must have known something, maybe not everything, but something, and she hadn't called me. She hadn't protected me. She hadn't come. "Where's your mother?" I asked quietly. He hesitated. She's different, Grandma. She cries a lot. She looks scared all the time. Dad keeps telling her not to worry, that he's handling things. When she tries to talk, he shuts the door." My chest tightened. My daughter had always been soft-spoken, the kind of woman who apologized when someone bumped into her, the kind who lowered her voice to make others comfortable, the kind who thought keeping peace was the same as keeping love. And she married a man who used silence like a weapon. I knelt in front of Noah,
placing my hands on his shoulders. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't have come alone." "I had to," he said. "Emma wanted to come too, but she's scared of getting caught. Dad watches her like she's a prisoner." A tremble went through him. "Grandma, Dad's lying. He's lying about everything, and he's trying to make us believe the lies too." My heart ached. But I also felt something else, something rising, something sharper. Strength. Because fear can paralyze a mother, but danger awakens her. "Noah, does your father know you took this?" He shook his head. "He went to the store. I wrote a note saying I was going to study at Ethan's house." "How did you get here?" I asked. "I took my bike." The nearest house was almost 2 miles away. My driveway alone was a 1/4 mile long. "Noah," my voice cracked, "you shouldn't have had to do this." He blinked rapidly, tears forming. "I couldn't let him lie about you anymore." I pulled him into my arms. For a moment, he was small again. 5 years old, sticky hands from chocolate, dandelion crown on his head. For just a moment, time bent. Then I heard the sound of an engine. My heart stopped. Noah jerked back. "He's here." Headlights swept across the yard like a searchlight. "Noah, go inside," I said immediately, "through the back door." "But now." He ran. I stayed on the porch, spine straight, feet planted, the petition still in my hand. The car pulled into the driveway fast, too fast, and gravel sprayed under the tires. Evan stepped out before the engine even died. His face wasn't angry. It was worse. It was calm, dead calm. "Mrs. Fenton," he said, walking toward me with measured steps, "is my son here?" I didn't move. He came to see me. He gave a thin smile, one that reminded me of a blade pressed lightly against a throat. "Without permission," he said. "He's a child, Evan," I replied. "He needed help." "Or you convinced him to run here." His eyes narrowed. "You've always been manipulative." The laugh that escaped me was humorless. "You're accusing me of manipulation," I said softly, "while you file petitions to erase me from their lives?" His jaw tightened. Not enough for most people to notice, but I saw it. I'd learned to read the subtle shifts of abusers over decades of watching women lose themselves to men like him. "Give me Noah," he said, extending his hand as if expecting me to hand over a parcel, not a human being. "He's in my house. Safe." "You're violating custody terms." "There are no custody terms regarding me," I reminded him. "Only lies." He stepped closer. "You want to see my anger?" he whispered. "Keep standing there." I didn't flinch. And that unsettled him. He wasn't used to women who didn't cower. He wasn't used to mothers who didn't fold. He wasn't used to anyone telling him no. Footsteps sounded behind me. "Noah." He stood in the doorway, chin trembling but lifted. "Dad," he said, voice cracking. "I came here because I wanted to. Grandma didn't make me." Evan's eyes didn't leave me. "Get your things," he told Noah. "We're leaving." "No," Noah said. My breath caught. "Excuse me?" Evan asked, turning slowly toward him. Noah swallowed. I'm not going." The world went still. Even the night insects stopped buzzing. Evan's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't get to decide that." "Yes," Noah said, steadier now. "I do." Evan stepped forward. Noah stepped back. I stepped between them. "You will not touch him," I said. "Not tonight." I knew the risk. I knew how accusations worked. I knew the power imbalance. But a mother defending a child, blood or not, is a force older than fear. Evan stared at me, not with rage, with calculation. "You're making a mistake," he said finally. "I'll make sure the court sees this." "Good," I said. "Bring the courts. Bring all of them. Bring the truth, too, if you remember where you left it." His nostrils flared. "This isn't over." He turned, got into his car, and sped away. Tires skidding, gravel scattering, tail lights disappearing into the dark. When the echo finally faded, Noah sagged against the doorframe, shaking. "Grandma, I'm scared." I pulled him into my arms again. "I know, but you were brave." And he had been, braver than any 12-year-old should have to be. Later that night, after Noah had fallen asleep on the couch wrapped in one of my old quilts, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea I didn't drink. The house hummed around me, the old refrigerator, the creaking pipes and ticking clock, sounds that had been part of my life for decades. But something was different now. The fragile peace I lived in, half silenced, half afraid, was gone. In its place was something sharper. I unfolded the petition again. Cold words, colder intent. He wanted me legally erased, not just kept at a distance, not just discredited, erased. The kind of erasure men like him orchestrate slowly, quietly, until there's nothing left for anyone to remember. But he forgot one thing. I don't go quietly. I don't disappear, and I don't lose. My daughter might be silent. The system might be blind. But children see everything. At 2:13 a.m., while I was going through old documents, a small voice broke the silence. "Grandma?" "Emma." She stood in the hallway in pajamas, hugging her stuffed rabbit, eyes red. I rushed to her and dropped to my knees. "Emma, sweetheart, why are you here? How did you—" "She came with me," Noah said softly from behind her. "She hid in the back seat of the car when Dad left. She wanted to see you." Emma threw her arms around me and sobbed into my shoulder. "Grandma, Daddy said awful things. He said you hurt people. He said you were sick. But I heard him. I heard him talking to someone on the phone. He said you have money. He said if he got rid of you, it would all be ours." My heart twisted. "Sweetheart," my voice cracked. "He said you weren't going to live long anyway, but you're fine," she shouted, pulling back, eyes blazing with innocent fury. "You're not sick. You're not dangerous. He's the one who yells. He's the one who scares Mom. He's the one who's making us lie." She was shaking. I held her tightly. Noah watched us, jaw clenched in a way no 12-year-old should. I pulled both of them close. "We're going to fix this. I promise you. No matter what he tries next, no matter how loud he shouts or how quietly he lies, the truth will win." Noah looked up at me. "How?" I looked toward the porch window where the moonlight cast a pale glow over the petition, still sitting where I'd left it. Because, I said softly, I know someone who can help us. Someone your father can't intimidate. Their eyes widened. Who? Emma whispered. I stood, walked to the phone, and dialed a number I hadn't used in years. When she answered, her voice was clipped, alert, sharp as glass. Hello? Diane, I said. It's me. I need your help, and it's about the children. A pause. Then, I'll be there at 6 a.m. Don't open the door for anyone else. The fight had officially begun.
The sun hadn't risen yet when Diane's truck pulled into my driveway. It was 6:02 a.m. when the gravel crunched under her tires, exactly as she promised. That was the thing about Diane. She didn't make empty promises, and she didn't tolerate people who did. Diane wasn't family by blood, but she had been my closest friend for 40 years. She was the kind of woman who fought battles other women were too tired or too scared to fight. She was also a retired attorney with a reputation so fierce that even county judges straightened up when she entered a room. Evan didn't know her. He would regret that. She stepped out of the truck, hair tied back, black coat wrapped around her, holding a steaming travel mug. "You look exhausted," she said, walking up the porch steps. "I am," I replied, opening the door. "I know," she said. "That's why I'm here." Inside, the house was quiet, except for the soft hum of the old refrigerator and the sound of small breaths coming from the living room. Noah and Emma were asleep on the couch, curled against each other. Emma's little hand was still gripping her stuffed rabbit. Noah's arm draped protectively over her, the way a brother twice his age would do. Diane's face softened when she saw them. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered, brushing a gentle hand over Emma's hair. "They must be terrified." "They are," I said quietly, "but they're also braver than they should ever have to be." Diane straightened. "Tell me everything. Start from the beginning." I explained it all. The school call, CPS, the petition, the lies, the inheritance discussions, the children overhearing their father plotting. By the time I finished, Diane's jaw was set like stone. "That man," she said, voice sharp, "is not incompetent. He is calculated." That word again. Calculated. She walked to the table and picked up the petition. "Removal of guardian rights," she read aloud. "And he filed this without conditions, without evidence." "He wrote fabricated incidents," I said. "Said I yelled at the children, said I had unpredictable behavior." "And the counselor?" she asked. "She said the children spoke about me with love. She said his accusations didn't match reality." Diane nodded slowly. "Good. We have witnesses." She paced the kitchen once, then stopped. "And he's isolating your daughter." "Yes," I whispered. I think he has been for years." Diane's eyes sharpened. "Then this isn't just about inheritance," she said. "This is about control. He wants access to your daughter's assets. He wants the children's trust funds, and he wants you gone to silence whatever truth you hold." I exhaled shakily. "So what do we do?" She gave a thin smile. "We expose him." By 8 a.m., the children were awake, and Diane was already building a plan at my kitchen table. Coffee mugs everywhere, papers spread, sticky notes forming lines of attack. Emma sat beside me, leaning against my arm, the rabbit in her lap. Noah sat beside Diane, his hands shaking slightly as he recounted everything he and Emma had overheard. "Take your time," she told him. "You're safe here." He nodded. "He said Grandma was almost 70. Noah said. He said she didn't have much time left anyway, so it was just expediting the inevitable. Emma flinched and pressed her face into me. Diane blinked once, slow, furious. He also said, Noah continued, voice trembling, that Mom listens to him because she doesn't want him to leave. He said she needs him because she can't manage money or the kids by herself. I felt physically ill. Diane put her hand on Noah's. You did the right thing coming here, and what you told me, it will help us stop him. Emma looked up. But what about Mommy? I swallowed hard.
We're going to help her too, I said softly. She just forgot her strength. We'll remind her. Diane looked at both children and spoke firmly. What your father is doing is wrong, and I'm going to make sure everyone sees it. At 10 a.m., while the children watched cartoons on low volume, Diane and I stepped outside so they wouldn't hear us discussing the next step. First, she said, we contact the school counselor and CPS. We present your grandchildren's statements. They have to open an investigation into Evan. My stomach twisted. And what if he retaliates? He will, she said bluntly. People like him always do. But that's when he makes mistakes. She continued. Second, we get your daughter. We need her statement. If we can get her alone for even 5 minutes. She listens to him, I said. She's afraid of disappointing him. She's afraid of breaking the family, she corrected. But that's already happened. She just hasn't admitted it yet. I looked at the yard, empty, quiet. The autumn leaves settling across the grass like little pieces of amber. I don't want her to think I'm tearing her life apart. You're saving her and the children. Then her voice softened. Let me ask you something. I nodded. Do you believe your daughter still loves you?
My eyes burned. Yes, I whispered. I do. Then she will come around, Diane said, once she sees the truth. At noon, Noah's nervous glance toward the window made my heart jump. He whispered, Grandma, I think Dad's outside. I went to the window slowly. Evan's car was parked at the end of the driveway, not coming up, not leaving, just sitting there, watching. Diane stood beside me, arms crossed. He's testing boundaries, she said. He wants you to panic. What do we do? I asked. We stay inside, she said calmly, and we document everything. Evan's car didn't move for 2 hours, not forward, not backward. He sat there, sentry-like, a silhouette behind tinted windows. Emma stayed close to me, frightened. Noah sat with Diane, watching but not approaching the window. Diane made notes. He wants control, she murmured, but right now he doesn't have it. That's why he's sitting there. That's why he's quiet. Finally, around 2:15 p.m., Evan stepped out of the car. Noah sucked in a breath. Emma grabbed my sleeve. He's coming, she whispered. Evan didn't charge up the driveway. He walked calmly, deliberately, as if he owned the land beneath his feet. Diane stood up. No one opens that door but me. She stepped outside before he reached the porch. I watched through the window, adrenaline pounding in my ears. Evan stopped at the bottom step. Is she inside? He asked. Diane didn't move. You need to leave, Mr. Randall. He flashed a cold smile. And who are you? A friend of the family.
and a retired attorney. The smile faded. Your children are inside, she continued. They are safe. They will remain safe. His eyes narrowed. I'm their father, and they are terrified of you right now. His nostrils flared. That's a lie. It's not, she said flatly, and I have recorded statements to prove it. His jaw twitched. You think you can keep them from me? No, Diane said. Your own behavior is doing that. He took a step forward. Diane didn't flinch. If you take one more step, she said calmly, I will call the sheriff and report intimidation and stalking. You're already under CPS review. Would you like to add harassment? Something flickered in his eyes, fear, irritation, but it was brief. He stepped back. You're making a mistake. No, Diane replied. You made one the moment you tried to erase their grandmother. He stared at the house, at me through the window, his expression dark and quiet. This isn't over. He walked back to the car. Diane waited until he drove away. Then she exhaled. And now, she said, we move fast.
That evening after dinner, Emma asleep against my arm and Noah reading on the rug, Diane spread papers out across the table. We need evidence, she said, and we need your daughter. My chest tightened. What if she won't come? Then we go to her. I shook my head. Evan won't let us near her. That's why we're not asking him. She leaned forward, eyes sharp as steel. Tomorrow morning, we're visiting your daughter at her workplace, without warning, without giving him time to block it. I hesitated. What if she refuses to believe us? Diane placed her hand over mine. She won't, she said gently. Your daughter is drowning, Agnes. She just needs someone to throw her a rope. I looked at the sleeping children, at the petition, at the empty driveway, and I knew tomorrow everything would break open. The lies, the silence, the fear. But truth has a sound of its own. Quiet, steady, undeniable. And tomorrow, my daughter would hear it.
I barely slept that night. Not from fear. Fear had lived inside my bones long enough to feel like a familiar tenant, but from anticipation. A strange, trembling anticipation that reminded me of the nights before my daughter's school recitals, or before report card meetings, or before we signed the papers for her first apartment. Except this time, I wasn't preparing to help her grow. I was preparing to save her, and she didn't even know she needed saving. By sunrise, my eyes were gritty, my body heavy, but my mind was sharp. Sharper than it had been in months, maybe years. Diane was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with coffee, pen in hand, papers neatly organized into sections. CPS, school statements, the petition, the children's recollections, and the financial documents that hinted at motives far darker than simple misunderstandings. Noah was awake too, sitting quietly on the couch, nervous but trying to be brave. Emma slept curled under a blanket, a small island of peace in the middle of a storm. I stood by the window, watching the faint pink of dawn spread across the sky. Diane looked up. You ready? She asked. I nodded, though readiness was a fragile thing. I wasn't sure if I felt ready or if I simply had no choice but to be. We're leaving at 8 sharp, she said. Your daughter starts work at 8:30. First hour is always paperwork and emails. He can't hover over her there. He checks her phone, I murmured. Then we approach her in person. I swallowed hard. She might be angry. She might, Dan said gently, but anger is often just fear wearing a louder coat. I stared out the window, fingers gripping the curtain edge.
I just want her to hear me. Really hear me.
She will, Diane said. Today is the day the silence breaks. At 8 a.m. exactly, we left the driveway. Noah and Emma stayed behind, under the supervision of one of Diane's neighbors, a kind, grandmotherly woman who understood the situation enough to protect them without asking invasive questions. I turned around twice before we left the street, checking the windows, making sure they felt safe. Diane drove because my hands were trembling too much. The town passed by in a blur. Shops I recognized, roads I'd driven for decades. The old bakery where my daughter and I used to get warm bread on Saturdays. When we pulled into the parking lot of my daughter's workplace, a 2-story beige office building with tinted windows, I felt a terrifying mix of relief and dread. Her car was already there. "My God," I whispered, "she's inside." Diane placed a firm hand on my arm. "Take a breath." I did. One, then another. The air tasted like old dust and hope. We stepped out of the car. My legs felt wobbly, but I walked forward anyway. It's strange how motherhood can make you brave in ways nothing else can. You can be timid your whole life, uncertain, quiet, and still transform into iron when your child needs you. And my daughter needed me more than she realized. We reached the glass door. Diane held it open, and cool air swept over us as we entered. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and carpet cleaner. A receptionist at the desk looked up with polite surprise. "Hi, can I help you?" "Yes," Diane said smoothly. "We're here for Claire Randall." The receptionist glanced at the clock. "She just got in. She's at her desk." "Is there any policy against a quick family drop-in?" Diane asked. The receptionist hesitated. "Normally we ask visitors to wait, but if it's family—" "It is," I said softly. Something in my voice made her nod. "Go ahead. 2nd floor, first cubicle on the left." I felt my pulse like thunder in my ears as we climbed the stairs. Halfway up, I paused, gripping the railing. "What if she won't listen?" I whispered. "She will. You raised her to." I exhaled shakily and continued. The 2nd floor was quiet, just the hum of computers and the soft tapping of keyboards behind cubicle walls. Then I saw her. My daughter. My beautiful, exhausted, silently drowning daughter. She sat in the first cubicle on the left, shoulders hunched, eyes focused on the monitor. Her hair was pulled into a loose bun, a few strands falling at her temples. She wore the navy cardigan I bought her last Christmas, the last gift she had accepted without hesitation. I couldn't move for a moment. Time seemed to freeze around her, the way it does when a mother sees her child after months of heartache. She hadn't noticed us yet. Then she turned slightly, maybe sensing movement. Her eyes met mine. She froze. "Mom?" she whispered, voice cracking slightly. "Yes, baby," I said, stepping forward. She stood so fast her chair rolled back. "What are you doing here? You can't—" "Evan said, Mom, you can't be here. It's not safe for—" She didn't finish, because Diane stepped beside me and gently placed a folder on her desk, and my daughter's eyes widened at the name on the folder. "Child Protective Services? Why do you have— what is this?" Diane spoke first. "Your children told us everything." My daughter's face drained of color. She looked at me, panic rising. No, Mom, please tell me they're home. Please tell me they're okay." "They're safe," I said, stepping closer. "They're with a trusted neighbor. They're safe." She let out a shuddering breath, covering her mouth with her hand. "Oh, God,
What's happening?" And then, as gently as I could, I told her. Everything. How Evan lied to the school, how he tried to file a petition to remove me, how he manipulated her finances, how he isolated her from me slowly, carefully, quietly. How the children overheard him calling me dangerous and plotting to keep them away. How he parked in my driveway, watching. How every step had been deliberate. By the time I finished, tears streamed down her cheeks. "No," she whispered. "No, he wouldn't." But her voice faltered. Her eyes dropped. Her hands shook. Because a woman always knows the truth she's been trying to avoid. She sank into the chair, burying her face in her hands. "Oh my God," she sobbed. "He told me he was protecting us. He said you were unstable. He said you refused to take your medication. He said you yelled at the kids. He said—" "He lied," I said softly. She looked up at me then, really looked at me. I saw the child she used to be, the girl who used to sleep against my arm during thunderstorms, the teenager who asked me to sit outside her door the night of her first heartbreak, the young woman who asked me to zip up her wedding dress, whispering, "You'll always be my home, Mom." She reached for me with trembling hands. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I gathered her into my arms, and for the first time in years, I held my daughter without fear, without distance, without silence. Just love. Pure, aching love. "It's not your fault," I whispered into her hair. "You trusted him, and he used that trust to isolate you." She cried harder. "I should have known. I should have seen." "No," I said firmly. "He made sure you couldn't see." When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red but clear. "What do we do now?" she asked in a trembling voice. Diane stepped forward. "Now," she said, "we called the sheriff and CPS and the school, and we put everything on record before he tries to twist the story again." My daughter nodded, though she was shaking. "But Mom, he's going to be furious." "I know," I said quietly. "And that's why you're coming with us." She looked at me startled. You want me to come home?" "With me. Where your children are. Where you are safe." Her lips trembled. "Yes," she whispered. "Please." The next few hours moved like a strange, terrible dream. We drove straight to the sheriff's office, and my daughter gave her statement. She spoke about the financial control, the emotional manipulation, the isolation, the fear, the lies he fed her about me. She shook while speaking, but she didn't falter. Diane sat beside her the whole time, steady and protective. By afternoon, CPS opened a formal case, this time on Evan. The sheriff's office filed a report for intimidation, attempted fraud, and psychological coercion. And then came the final piece, returning home. When we pulled into my driveway, Noah and Emma ran out first. "Mommy," they cried. My daughter opened the door before the car fully stopped. She dropped to her knees and held them tightly, sobbing into their hair. "I'm so sorry," she whispered over and over. "I'm so, so sorry." Noah cried. Emma cried. They clung to her like they had been waiting their whole lives for this moment. And I stood on the porch, hand over my heart, tears streaming down my face, because in all my years as a mother, I had never witnessed something so painful and so beautiful at the same time. Diane stood beside me. "You did it," she said quietly. "No," I whispered. "We did." Evan didn't come back that evening, but he called. And this time, my daughter answered on speakerphone, her voice calm and steady. "Where are the kids?" he demanded.
"They're with me," she said. "You had no right to take them. And you," she interrupted, "had no right to lie about my mother." There was a silence. Then his voice darkened. "Claire, come home. Now." "No," she said. "We're staying here. And CPS has been notified, and the sheriff. They have everything." The line went silent. Then, click. Call ended. My daughter put the phone down slowly. She looked at me. "Mom," she whispered, voice cracking. "I'm so scared." I pulled her into my arms. "You're not alone," I said. "Not anymore." That night, my daughter slept in her old room. The children slept beside her, and I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to their breathing, steady, safe, together. Diane left around midnight with a promise to return in the morning, and I sat in my armchair, wrapped in a blanket, letting peace settle into my chest. A fragile peace, yes, but real. Hard-won, ours. Some truths take time to surface. Some lies take time to unravel. Some families take time to rebuild. But that night, for the first time in years, I felt something warm, familiar, and steady. Hope. Not loud, not triumphant, just a quiet ember, glowing where silence once lived. And in that quiet glow, I whispered, "We're going to be okay." Because this time, I knew we truly would. Don't forget to subscribe us for more stories like this.